Aaron Hernandez now formally charged with first-degree murder in the death of a friend. Since news of the murder broke, the former New England Patriot has been criticized for the covet he keeps. But with the credibility of so-called snitch coming into question now and a lack of hard evidence against him, some say Hernandez's strange inner circle are giving the state a really tough case to prosecute. Joining us now, defense attorney David Wohl. Robert Schalk joins us, defense attorney and former prosecutor. Robert, let me begin with you. There's a guy by the name of Carlos Ortiz. We have a picture of him. He's flipped, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you read the court documents and see everything that happened in court in the arraignment on, I believe it was Thursday, Ortiz was the only member of the three men who were last seen with Olden Lloyd before he was killed, and he was the only one that wasn't indicted and formally charged with any crimes. There's speculation that the prosecution obviously is in bed with him. He's telling them everything that he knows. But the question is going to be at the trial, will he stand up to cross-examination? Because Mr. Ortiz is not the most credible witness with regards to his background. He has prior criminal convictions. Right. I believe he's on probation. He admitted to his probation officer that he is addicted to drugs and alcohol. So the defense team for Hernandez is going to have a heyday with him on the witness stand.
Oh, they surely will. And David, to that point, I mean, it's always a problem, right? Bad people hang out with bad people. Snitches are nefarious. So it's a field day for the defense.
Well, it is, Greg. And I mean, even Hernandez's cousin was offered immunity. And she said to the prosecutor, forget about it. I'm not going to testify with immunity. I mean, every single one of their witnesses has lengthy criminal records, have serious drug problems, are going to be seriously lacking in credibility. So the prosecution is going to be left with either them or other people who may take the fifth and won't prosecute it, won't testify at all. They have videotape, which may be to their advantage. It shows them pulling into an industrial park with Olden Lloyd in the car, and when they leave shortly thereafter, oops, he's not in there.
Yeah.
But if you just have the videotape and you don't have credible witnesses to back that up, boy, I'll tell you what, I see reasonable doubt possibly coming down the road.
In fact, I put together a summary of the evidence for prosecutors. Let's put it on the screen. Here it is. 44 caliber gun casings match the murder weapon. Surveillance video, as David mentioned, places Hernandez at the scene. The text messages, cell phone messages. The victim's sister implicates Hernandez. DNA evidence, literally bubble gum, blue bubble gum, places Hernandez at the scene. Robert, this is a good case for prosecutors against Hernandez, is it not?
No, it's definitely a good case with the physical evidence and the videotapes. But as David was saying, if you can't explain your evidence, it's going to sometimes there are going to be jurors who are going to want to know what happened. Why did this happen? If they can't bring credible witnesses to the witness stand to back up the evidence, again, that reasonable doubt is going to be a great argument for the defense. And not only that, how is it that Ortiz and Ernest Wallace, the other two co-defendants, why wouldn't the prosecution charge all three of them with murder and then lean on them?
Yeah,
you know, Greg,
that's what I don't get. David, wait a minute. If each of the three men blame each other as the shooter, can't they all be convicted because they're acting in concert? The prosecution can place them all at the scene. It's a conspiracy to commit murder.
And when it comes to aiding and abetting, which they could also implicate these defendants as, they hold equal responsibility, so they can all be convicted for murder and they can all be given life sentences. That's what they've got to do. They've got to charge them all. Somebody who sees that getting a life sentence is far worse than rolling over on their buddy will roll over, and then they'll be able to get some credible testimony, because right now the only person charged other than Aaron Hernandez is one of his cohorts who's been given an accessory after the fact charge. That only carries a penalty of 7 years. That's not good enough to get him to cooperate. He'll just sit there and say, I ain't going to cooperate. You can convict me. I'll do 3 years in prison, and I'll be out.
Robert, what about that? If they can all be placed at the scene of the murder, Aren't they all guilty?
Right. It's the good old argument as a prosecutor that I used to make, where if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. If you're all there and you all prepared this in advance, you're all get in the car together, you pick them up, you take them to the industrial park, no one comes back. Olden Lloyd doesn't come back. He's found dead. And you see videotape of Hernandez and the other two guys in Hernandez's home with guns in their hands. You can obviously argue circumstantially and direct evidence, the text messages, etc., tie all three of them to it. Then you can get people to roll, as David was saying. But without it, you have two people who have no incentive right now. I mean, Ortiz has an incentive because he's on probation, he's got skeletons, but Ernest Wallace has no incentive to cooperate at this point.
All right, David Wool, Robert Schalk, two of the best. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Well, still to come, it is back to work for Congress, and they've got their work cut out for them. Coming up, our political insiders will debate. Are we headed for a government shutdown this fall over the budget and Obamacare?